Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on which time zone you're joining us from. So lovely to have you all here and welcome to our March Fireside Chat. It is so nice to see everybody again. I feel like it has been a while. Just as a refresher, if this is your first time joining us, this is a meeting that really provides us a very casual opportunity to really join in a conversation as we explore different opportunities here with INACSL. And we have an opportunity to also answer any questions we might have, specifically as we speak to our esteemed guests today. We do typically have this meeting year-round every other month, and each meeting gives us an opportunity to meet with a different group of people representing a special interest group or a committee, or just get to know a little bit more about what INACSL has for us and how we can get involved. If you have any questions anytime during our conversation, please feel free to add those questions to. It looks like we have a chat, so please feel free to ask your questions in the chat. We have people who will be monitoring that and will be able to kind of jump in with those questions. But we're also going to make sure that we reserve time at the end of our meeting so that if you have any additional questions you want to ask or anything you want to follow up on, you have that opportunity. If for some reason you're experiencing any kind of technical difficulties as we navigate through our meeting, please email inaxlinfo@inaxl.org. My name is Nicola Contreras. I am the chair of the membership committee, and I'm thrilled to be part of the team that will be moderating our conversation today. I'm joined today by other members of our committee and our president, and I would love to take a moment to have them introduce themselves as they'll be actively participating in monitoring the chat and also kind of making sure that your questions are heard and represented today. Ashley, can I start with you a little bit of an introduction about just you and how you've been involved in INACSL?
Sure. Thank you, Nicola. My name is Ashley Franklin, and I am the current president of INACSL. And I'm finishing up my fourth year on the board of directors and have one more year to come as past president. And I have learned so much from colleagues in INACSL since 2008, both about facilitation and professional integrity and psychological safety, but also leadership opportunities. And so I'm grateful to have many connections on this call and to contribute to the conversation as much as I can.
Great, thank you so much. I'd also like to take a moment to have the membership committee that's represented here also kind of jump in, just so that we can put a name to a face as we're navigating through the meeting. So if I could just invite other members of the membership committee to just jump on in and introduce yourselves.
I can start. Thank you, Nicola. Hello, everyone. My name is Jaslyn Moreno. I'm the faculty lead with the Maryland Clinical Simulation Resource Consortium, have been active in the membership committee for a few years and have just enjoyed networking and connecting with different people. So looking forward to learn a little bit more about Include today.
Great.
Lori?
Yeah, I'm Lori Greer, part of the membership committee too, probably 3 or 4 years with that, and started INACSL in 2018, I believe, and just invaluable experiences with colleagues and networking and learning from other people. So that's been my experience. I'm glad to have you all here today and excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you.
I'll triple in the excitement. I'm Rachel Phelps from High Point University, and I've been on the membership committee about 2 years.
Wonderful.
And I'll say hello as well. My name is Heather Lakevich. I work at Duke University School of Nursing and Simulation. And this is my, I haven't even been on the committee a full year, I don't think, just about to be. So thank you.
Wonderful.
Nicola, I'll just real quick introduce myself. I'm Beth
Great.
Hallmark, and I'm on the board. I'm on the liaison to the membership committee. I'm not going to be able to stay on the whole time, but I really appreciate y'all's work, and I'm excited to go back and listen to the rest of the recording.
Wonderful. And I think I also saw, did I see Pam on here as well?
Hi, yeah, I'm Pam Shoemate. I'm on the membership committee, and I just love to see us taking these sorts of strides to also make our simulation activities welcome and warming environments for our students. And hopefully that will translate into our patients in the future.
Oh, I love that. Great. I'm hoping I'm not missing anyone. I'm just taking a quick peek from our membership committee. Now, for those of you joining, we'd love to know a little bit about you. So in the chat, as we kind of welcome our guests, if you would be so kind as to pop your name and where you're joining us from, and maybe a little bit about you've been involved with INACSL or any questions you may have. We would love that just to kind of capture a little bit about you. So without further ado, I am absolutely excited to introduce today's topic and our guests today. We are going to be illuminating Include Beyond Simulation, our fireside chat. And I wanted to say thank you so much to this committee for spending time with us, but to also put together such an amazing title that really pulls us in and gets us excited about our conversation today. So I'd love to take a moment to have each of our guests introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your current role, maybe how you first heard or got involved with the INACSL, and tell us a little bit about your time with the Include Committee.
I guess I'll get us started. Hello, everyone. I'm Danette Canty. I am currently a clinical nurse educator at Duke University Health System. In my current role, I teach a lot of EKG type classes, not PALS, ACLS, CPR. I also get to do some simulations with the staff and our new graduate nurses. I've been a member of INACSL. It's been, gosh, 7 or 8 years. Thankful for my last department, was able to support and fund me for going. And I just haven't quit going. I look forward to going every year. And I eventually got on to the Include Committee back in 2020. So I am one of the original members. And I just love what we do and what we're about, and just all the wonderful people that I've met and get to continue to work with.
Okay, I'll go next. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Sevilla Bronson. I am currently at the University of South Carolina College of Nursing, where I serve as Interim Associate Dean for Access, Belonging, and Community Engagement. And I'm also an Associate Professor at the university. Um, I too have been a member of INACSL. Actually, I started in 2011
Unplug it.
at my previous employment, and I also conducted simulation. I was the end all be all. I was everything from beginning, middle, and end for simulation at my previous job. And so I continue with simulation, actually assisting where needed and working on some simulation grants right now. I was a original member, I am an original member of the Include Committee as well. Actually, I remember meeting with a group back in 2016, uh, indicating that we needed to do something on this level. So when it opened up, I was more than happy to see Include get started, take off, and we are still going strong.
Well, I guess I'll speak. I'm Barbara Blackwell. Unfortunately, my camera isn't working. I have IT trying to get it in. I have been with INACSL since 2011, and I am proud to say that I have been a charter member of Include also, and I'm very proud of the progress that the committee has made. Right now, I am the chair of the committee also, and I just hope that our work continues.
And good morning. My name's Dr. Keandra Reston, and I actually joined INACSL in 2020. I went so long without knowing about INACSL. I've been working in simulation since 2012, and I joined Include last year. So I'm a newer member, but I just wanted a place to incorporates some of the things, the values that I wanted to add to simulation, and I felt it was a great place to learn more about it. I actually took a break from managing simulation for a while. I just finished up my DMP last week, actually. So I'm planning to jump back into simulation now that I'm done. I'm happy to be here. Thank you all for listening to us today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Tiffany Chidome, and I am an associate clinical professor at Auburn University in Southern Alabama. So you can probably hear some of the Southern drawl. But I am another inaugural / charter member of the Include Committee. And you will hear that a lot with this group. We love each other. We absolutely have formed great relationships. We've done projects together, presentations together, and nobody really wants to leave the committee. So, that kind of gives you an insight to how close knit we are. So like I said, I love this group of people. I love the leadership that Ashley Franklin has provided. And shameless plug, I am running for the board of directors. So if you don't know who to vote for, check me out. My video's up and everything, and I'll pass it over to Denise.
Hi, I'm Dr. Denise Dawkins, another original. My story, I started the INACSL in 2005, believe it or not, one of their first conferences in San Antonio. I was lucky enough to have a nurse exec that said, "Hey, you got to check this organization out before we started our simulation." So I used to do the undergraduate with the plastic guy, and now I'm kind of metamorphosing over to graduate students, and we're doing standardized patients. And yes, please vote for Tiffany.
I love that. Can I just say, just your like cohesiveness as a team is so evident. It's just so nice. You all look like you really do enjoy working with each other and what you do. And so I'm excited to have this time with you. You've all kind of shared a little bit about your journey with the Include Committee. Would you be willing to tell us a little bit about the committee itself? Kind of help us get an understanding of like when we hear Include Committee, what is the Include Committee? And tell us a little bit about what your committee does.
So Include is originally all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we came up with the title because the I is inclusion, NCLU, capital D, capital E. So that's how we identified ourselves as Include. And of course, you know, with the things going on in our country today, we already know that using certain terminologies, you know, is no longer acceptable, but making sure that there is an environment where everyone feels like they are a part, where everyone feels connection, and where everyone feels that they can collaborate with others without hesitation. That's what we're all about. So we initially aimed to really shed light on diversity in simulation because we just did not see enough of it. So we wanted to shed light on that anywhere from individuals serving in leadership roles at INACSL all the way to the mannequins that we see that should represent our student body, our faculty body. We were not seeing that. And so we needed to work on things like that, as well as scholarship, as well as just promoting those who really did not have the chance early on, and still those who may not have the chance now. We want to promote them. So that was our initial focus of what Include was all about. And we continue to follow our values, our core values of INACSL to make sure that those things happen.
I love that. That really kind of speaks to, I was going to ask about like how it supports the mission and vision of INACSL, but I think you really kind of shared that in your kind of sharing of what exactly the committee is and really the mission of the committee. You've been very involved in shaping and promoting inclusion, representation within INACSL. Can you share a little bit with us about some of your past initiatives? I'm speaking things specifically about things like the Diversity Award, Scholarship Award, whatnot. If you could share a little bit about that for us.
I can start that conversation. We might want to spotlight Benjamin Small here, who I see is on. I don't know if he wants to be spotlighted or not, but he was another inaugural member and the original chair, and he passed the torch to Emlyn and now Barbara, who is carrying on the great work of Include. But Ben led one of the great projects we had is Ben led us on a journey of trying to just find publications, information about the diversity in simulation or the lack thereof. And I think, Ben, we probably changed the research question 3 or 4 times because we were finding absolutely nothing on, how the mannequins are colored, and you have the Caucasian mannequin, and why does the Black or other mannequin just look like it was that one dipped in a Hershey's Kisses bar? So we went, from projects like that to also with the LGBTQIA plus community and how they're being treated in the hospital settings, and how do we need to be cognizant of those changes. Well, yes, it might say Johnny on your birth certificate, and if you go by Jenny, we should respect that and then change your patient care according to your preferences. So things like that. And from that first publication, I think we've been cited anywhere from 30 to 40 times. We've had multiple presentations. We've done a webinar off of that, and we are working on another one that I'll be leading regarding with the new DEI, with the current political climate. And like I know in Alabama is SB 129, where you have to remove all the verbiage of diversity, and that's happening across many of the states. So how do we still incorporate what we want to do to make sure that there's that equity and inclusion, but use it under a different name? So how can we do that? So that's some of the things that we've initiated and worked on. Also with the membership committee, I think one of the first projects we ever had, and I think Danette can probably speak better to what you all did with the research committee.
Actually, I was not a part of the research committee. I was a part of the awards committee for a while, and but the awards, the the DEI award or diversity award actually wasn't birthed out of Include. It actually was kind of birthed out of the awards committee, but I was the Include liaison. And so, but yeah, basically we just put, this award together and, came up with all the requirements and, so it just highlighted everybody that was, committed to DEI work and implementing that in their environments and, through simulation and that kind of sort. But I was going to talk about the actual diversity scholarship award. So that ended up coming from the Anthony Battaglia Scholarship Award, which was already going on. But again, our Include people, communicating with the board and saw a need for more underrepresented folks to attend. And so those funds would, we were intentional. I think the total is usually around 10. So we were intentional about having 50%. So a good 5 people, fill out the application and, as long as they identified as being a minority, then they could get this scholarship. So we were just intentional about creating opportunities for more underrepresented folks.
I think this is a great example of your impact throughout INACSL and not just specifically on your committee. This component of liaising with other committees within INACSL truly has kind of made sure that there is that kind of theme of inclusion and support, like across INACSL as an organization. Have you been involved in liaising with other special interest groups or committees? And if so, like, what have been some of the outcomes or changes that we've experienced as a result of your hard work? You've shared a little bit about awards and the Anthony Battaglia. Is there anything else that you can share with us about how you've been able to liaise and kind of make sure that this practice is kind of widespread rather than just one committee?
Yeah. Actually, I'll just start us off because there's several people I think up here that are in some, other committees as well.
You're muted, Danette.
Danette, we lost you for a moment.
Oh, sorry, I'm just talking away. You would think I would be used to Zoom by now after 5 years, but anyway. So no, I was just saying I'll just jump in quickly about the awards committee that I was just talking about, which Tiffany is now a part of. But at least during that time, I was taking information back, to our Include committee and, had this, just want to make sure that we were appropriately blinding, applicants, and got to a point where we, removed the names and, the location where people were working in, and, certainly if they had a business that, a lot of people are associated with. I'm learning it's actually a smaller community than what I at least thought. And so again, just trying to blind appropriately so we can minimize any bias related to, name and all those kind of things. So we have certainly done that.
I think also during the standard revisions, many of us went off to other committees. I worked on facilitation, and looking at facilitation, you wouldn't think that there would be any language that might be considered to be biased, but we truly, I mean, that was my role being on that committee also, to look at it and to make sure that we use inclusive language within that standard.
I
Yeah.
also worked on the standards committee, and the committee that I worked on was professional integrity. And I echo what Barbara said. It's amazing to see how we can infuse bias without even knowing that we've infused bias. And some other things that we've also done with INACSL is um, we've actually worked with Laerdal in reviewing some of their simulations to make sure that those simulations are appropriate for the students, for the faculty, for whoever is using them, to make sure that there's no bias in those particular simulations. And we've, I believe that we collaborated, and someone could check me on that. We collaborated with them with regards to the types of, the mannequins, and asking if they can, develop some mannequins that looked more like the people that we serve in our communities.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a particular vendor letter that we sent out a few years ago as well. So it was, like the United stand in front of, like Sevilla was just saying, we wanted to see more diverse mannequins. We wanted to see more diverse sales associates, as well as hoping that they were doing those, taking those initiatives within their own organization, wherever they were coming from, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I was the representative from the I got put on the debriefing standard, and like you said, it's just making sure that it's an all-inclusive language, that when you're going through the debriefing process, that everyone is included. And just the things that I've learned in the Include group, it has also given me the wherewithal to communicate that with my other team members. And so some of the initiatives that we've done over here is we've partnered with our what we call an Eagle Center, which are high functioning autistic students, and they get paired up with like just traditional students to where they can like take notes for them or help study. And those students are so fortunate. So we even have a simulation that um, that we get our students to practice doing assessments, and in return, the Eagle students get more comfortable with someone touching them or being prepared for those physician visits. Then out of that, we now have just purchased the model Gwen, who is a Down syndrome simulator. So it can just like, be a snowball, and it just starts with just a little something and it just gains traction. And now we're being huge. So, like we said, incorporating all the different communities, other people who don't look like you, who don't sound like you, who have other needs and other, preferences is just beneficial, and it makes it more inclusive. And like in Alabama, we just have this certain type of culture, and just to have our students to step out of that and realize you have to learn how to care for people other than those that are like you, I think has really been impactful. And I've seen a difference in our student population.
I love that. I especially like the example you shared about how we're kind of bringing simulation to others and using it in unique ways to make sure that we are meeting the needs of those we care for, those we work with, and those we educate and partner with. So that's wonderful. I'm curious, with the information that you shared with the vendors, have you seen a change? Have you seen some changes in maybe how we have really been able to represent the patients we care for, and our students are able to see people like them in the patients that we're caring for in our institutions?
I feel like I have, for sure. I remember, actually I was thinking back. So I've probably been going to I've been a member probably since maybe 10 years ago. But anyway, over the last 7 to 8 years, for sure, I feel like I have seen a change. Because right, like Tiffany mentioned earlier, it was just the Caucasian mannequin and this very, very dark chocolate mannequin versus now, at least we were seeing shades of mannequins. And then for sure, there are a few more facial features that we are seeing that looks more, ethnic to whatever, ethnicity it is. And it's not just this standard, everything is molded off of Caucasian, facial features, jawline, all that kind of stuff, hair even. And so yes, I mean it's taken a long time. And I remember I would go through the vendor section, and every year I'd be telling them like, hey, y'all got some work to do, Like, see what color I am. So there's all shades of people. But for sure, yes. Definitely seen some changes.
And I think
And
it was fascinating that it's not just shades that I see differences in, but also age. Like now we have geriatric mannequins, and we also have different sizes because we're not all buff, uh, tall, buff people when we go to the hospital. So I've seen more frail, thin. I've seen more voluptuous mannequins as well. So I thought that that was pretty fascinating from the time that I started simulation in 2012 to now, how it has become more inclusive in many ways.
That's great. Can I just say, I am thrilled to hear about how behind the scenes, when we were revising the standards, we were looking for bias and looking at language, because language is so very important. And I will say that is something I was not even aware of, is that, this is something that we've really spent some time looking at as we revise the standards. Knowing that language is really important in this day and age, with the world as we know it, how have you seen language change in terms of DEI initiatives? Have you seen a change in language? Are you looking at how language may be used differently when we're still trying to capture inclusion and representation?
I think now we're using person first language. I hear a lot of pregnant persons versus pregnant moms. You know, people without homes versus homeless, stuff like that.
I love that. And recently someone has shared with me, actually, if I could, the term inclusive excellence. So I know Keandra had reached out to kind of share a language that should be something maybe we think about as this inclusive excellence. Are you able to talk a little bit about that language for us?
I think Sevilla actually introduced that term to us. But I can just say, just real quick, that it's just instead of people think of DEI as race only. Typically, if you speak to someone who's non-red about it, they'll think it's just about race, but it's actually about a variety of things. And using terms like include or inclusion includes LGBTQIA plus people, as well as people that may have medical, chronic illnesses, differently able, neurocognitive, like it just includes everyone, instead of just thinking of it as just one group of people. But I'll let Sevilla explain a little bit more about it.
You're right. Inclusive excellence is, it's one of those things where um, everyone gets recognized and respected for who they are, what they do. Um, you know, we don't necessarily use the terms marginalized groups and things like that. Yes, we still have to talk about individuals who are from lower economic statuses, students that are first time in college, things like that. We have to still identify with those particular terms and people. But when you look at inclusive excellence, again, you're making sure that everyone is being met on an even playing field. No one is being overlooked, no one is being ignored. Everyone has a part to play in whatever, the activity is, whatever the role is. Everyone has a part to play. Everyone has a voice, to give voice to that. And so they are all included. The excellence comes in when we really do um, follow our own, or not our own, but follow our um, goals, our objectives, when we follow the values that have been set forth from wherever we work, or whatever organization we're a part of, we have to really understand what those values are so that then we practice and live those values. That's where the excellence comes into play. If you can't live out what your values say that you're going to do, then it's time to do some self-reflection and go back to the drawing board, because you're no longer practicing in an excellent state of mind. You're practicing in a biased state of mind. So that's in a nutshell what inclusive excellence is all about. And, I'm bringing that from a perspective because I'm currently involved in an Inclusive Excellence Institute, and this is one of the things that we address on a monthly basis, bi-monthly basis when we meet. We look at those subtle nuances that people wouldn't even think about, such as the clothes that someone might wear and how we view those clothes. And are we being um, excellent in our views, or are we making assumptions that does not lift the person, whether you speak to that person or not? It doesn't lift them. Actually, you're demeaning that person in your own thoughts, in your own mind, and it carries through in your body language. So in simulation, we have to be careful that we don't carry through the wrong message with our students or with our colleagues, as we go through a simulation experience. It should show inclusive excellence from beginning to the end.
I think one thing is that we need to switch the narrative so that people understand that through inclusion, and this is something that the committee said, there is strength.
Yeah.
There is strength, there is diversity, there is a better understanding of who we are as a people and the people who we care for.
Yeah, that is really powerful and actually makes me think about like, are we pulling over and being intentional, even in like how we set that safe container and pre-briefing? When we design our scenarios and we're even thinking about the small details, as you mentioned, like the physical appearance, not just characteristics, but how is our mannequin dressed? I think we need to maybe take a moment, pause, and think about how the perception may be there or how we navigate through people's perceptions based on the patient we're presenting or the components within the design of our scenario. I love this that your group actually pulls over, Sevilla, and talks about these things that may seem to be just such a small detail, but can be incredibly powerful and impact the learning perception and even the care being provided within that simulation experience. And I wonder if, I mean, do we all take that same time and how could we model this in our own organizations to really make sure that we're providing inclusive excellence?
You know, Nicola, just to add a small piece to that that might bring this home for some people is, and taking it out of simulation, I'm thinking about the admissions process, the holistic admissions process, where you don't see the name of the person that has submitted an application because all too often people can associate certain names with African American, with Hispanic, with non-African American, non-Hispanic, Asian, so on and so forth. So to get rid of that bias, they take the name away. It's essentially the same with simulation. We have to, as you said, we have to be careful in how we are naming our mannequins, dressing our mannequins. Now, granted, if you're talking about a patient from an Asian background or whatever, because you're focusing on culture, understandable. But if you're focusing on, let's just say, substance abuse, don't just automatically make it a Black patient or a patient with a Black name, because substance abuse comes in all forms, all shapes, all colors, from alcoholism to cigarette smoking. So we just have to be careful with that.
Yeah, I think that's so important. We may not be actually supporting our learners, and we might actually be hurting our learners and propagating a bias that we really have an opportunity and an obligation to kind of navigate past and through so that we truly can have this inclusive excellence in all our areas, right in from admissions right through to graduation. I love that you're bringing it up. It starts before we even get to simulation. And as educators and like part of the organizations that we serve in simulation, I think that's a pretty powerful response because I suspect many of us are involved in reviewing applications. Even though our role may be in simulation, we often have multiple hats we wear in our institutions, and it's important that we think about those too. I love that you brought that up. You have a Rising Star Mentor program, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell us a little bit about your Rising Star Mentor program, particularly as we're speaking about sharing scholarship or kind of presenting practices?
If nobody else want to talk, I'll jump in.
I was gonna say, I can say a little bit about it. I'm on the conference planning committee, and so what Include has done is we've taken the Rising Star a bit further, and if they meet the criteria, then we try to partner up with somebody that's on the committee that can help them facilitate their poster. So I think, and I don't want to make my committee members nervous, but there's 18 so far, but we still haven't gotten done with the criteria yet. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to add too, as we kind of prepared for this the last few months and, just really digging back into some of our history in our earlier years and reviewing staff meeting minutes and that sort. But and this, I was going to say something about this as well. So I think, yeah, a few of us have been a part of the conference planning committee, and we have just been able to really influence, the conference overall and just making it more diverse. And part of that, so back to more diverse speakers, more diverse pool of
Content.
attendees, with that scholarship, as well as the folks that are getting to present. So I remember early on, it was very much research focused. And so, you're thinking about a lot of the presenters, had their doctoral degrees. And so I certainly have seen over the years where the presenters, their educational background, there's a variety there. And so I'm part of that, this poster, I think we originally called it Star something,
Search.
but
Star shirts.
Star
Star
Search.
Search, yes. And now it's Rising Stars poster. But part of that too is still giving people opportunity to present posters that maybe not quite ready to submit for, podium abstracts and presentations. So again, just allowing more folks, more diverse folks opportunities.
I think that is such an important program because oftentimes when we go places, we go to conference, we network with folks who might be a little bit newer to simulation, newer to academia, or newer to this idea of sharing ideas. It's nice to know that there is somebody to kind of help guide us through. Like, we really are a powerful community together. And so the fact that we've got this program to mentor people who've got really important things to say and are doing amazing things, but just not maybe as familiar with the process or even being able to put it together. I love that this is something that's available to people to be able to help coach and guide us to truly being inclusive, even amongst our own group, our own membership, our own kind of organization, and really kind of fostering and growing that whole concept of inclusive excellence in all areas that we touch and we impact. I can't imagine how I can imagine how valuable that would be as somebody who kind of at the very beginning just not knowing where to go, who to ask and whatnot. How would I reach out if I was like struggling or was interested in getting some support or some mentorship? What would be a way that I could kind of reach out to be able to access this amazing resource?
A great question.
I know.
That is a good question.
That's a
Yeah.
great
Yeah, we
question
for
because
Ariel.
yeah,
So
because
just connecting with y'all would be the way to go. Like, I could just connect with y'all.
Well,
We
They can go to the website.
definitely don't mind,
Right.
but with all of the include committees, there's we have a board liaison and then we have an INACSL staff member. So Ariel is our staff member. So it may come from, yeah, she just dropped it in the chat, INACSL info@inacsl.org. And they will make sure they're a great team of people. I think I've worked with probably 4 or 5 throughout my tenure being on INACSL, different committees, but they will get us the message. That's that's the end thought, is that they will get us the message no matter what.
yeah.
And President Franklin has her hand up, I see.
I giggle when somebody says that. I just thought it might be a good time to drop in that this time of year is when the call for committees comes out for INACSL. I don't know about you guys, but we just finished spring break. Like, yesterday was our first day back at spring break. But in the next couple of weeks, I anticipate a call to go out for people who are interested in serving on committees. And that might be a way to like jump in and be a part of the Include committee more formally. And I see a note from Ariel that she's planning to send it out in April. And I believe it's going to stay open like through conference. So if we want to have a chance to have a cup of coffee when we're together in Denver and then say, oh yeah, I really would like to join that group, like formally, anybody can step up and say, I'd like to be a part of a committee. And my experience has been that the Rising Star Mentorship Program happens in conjunction with conference.
Right.
So like this year, everyone submitted an abstract to present a poster, and then there's like a checkbox that you can say, oh yes, I'd also think I might, be a fit for the Rising Star program. So I think, Nicola, those were kind of your pointed questions, and I hope that that provides a little concrete of an answer.
Yep.
That's helpful. Yeah, thank you. That's helpful. Sorry, Danette. Yeah,
No,
I
no.
absolutely love that.
Yeah, no, I was just
She plugged herself.
muted myself. So right, if Ashley had mentioned it, I was just gonna say too that that Rising Star mentor program is like more seasonal cyclet, in reference to the conference. However, back to I guess the original question of mentoring, that is one of our future initiatives though for our include committee. And so we have been talking about that off and on. We are just trying to make sure it is going to be different from the current mentoring program that I think is more research based. But obviously, I think when we did our maybe a couple years ago when we put some questions on the membership survey about those interested in mentors. So according to that, we know people are interested and feel like they need some assistance and help, and we want to do that. But there's a process, and that process that we have learned over the years definitely take time to make some of these changes. But it is on our radar for sure. Just trying to make sure it will be very different and meet the needs of our INACSL members.
That is absolutely great. I love that. Now, that being said, it sounds like y'all are a very busy and active committee. And so the last thing I want to do is flood things with you. So flood think like everybody just reach out to include is probably not what you want to hear like at the end of this meeting. You got any questions? Although I know you are always open to like supporting us and answering any questions and help to guide us. The diversity evaluation rubric might be something that could be helpful for all of us as we're kind of seeking to look at this inclusive excellence. Can you tell us a little bit about what this diversity evaluation rubric is and maybe how you've used it in your own practices?
Well, right now we are also working on a diversity rubric, and I'm part of that committee that's been working on it. We want it to be a short, quick checklist to make sure that people are intentional when they create their scenarios. So just, so we want it to be something that you can just check off and say, yes, I did this. Oh no, maybe I better think about this a little bit more as I'm writing the scenario. And that's one of the holdups. I mean, we're almost finished, I think. We're about round 4, and we want to present it to the committee again. But we want it to be something that people will use, put it next to their scenario, and make sure that they have covered certain areas within their scenario.
I think this is a great tool because sometimes we may not be aware of where we have not really been as inclusive or excellent as we should have been. And it's that unconscious bias that we know exists. And so to be able to have a standardized tool to kind of stand beside the scenario that I'm designing or facilitating, I can't even, I mean, that's a resource that all of us should be implementing as we go through this. Does it touch on like pre-brief and debrief or speak specifically to design and facilitation?
It really speaks to all areas, including pre-brief and debrief. We wanted it to go along with the standards, so that way you can make sure that you also are fulfilling each part of the standards.
That's great. And as we talk about the standards, and you shared that you've all been involved, or a lot of you have been involved in some way with the revision of the standards that we saw. I'm curious about the thought on a development of a standalone standard that would speak to perhaps inclusive excellence. Is there any conversation about that? I know that it's kind of embedded in every one of the standards to make sure that the language is inclusive, but I'm curious if there's been a conversation about a standalone standard that speaks to this inclusive excellence.
Well, that has been, I might say, a long time coming, because since the beginning, when Benjamin was chair, that was part of the discussion. So it has been a long-term discussion about having a standalone. And some people may say, well, if it's embedded in all of the standards, why do we need a standalone? Because we think that, first of all, that it's that important. And it will highlight the importance of inclusiveness. Did I speak correct, Benjamin? So we really do go ahead.
Yep, absolutely. Sorry, I'm in clinical practice today, so toggling back and forth. But yeah, absolutely. We had talked about whether or not there should be a standard separately dedicated to diversity within nursing simulation. But then the other aspect is that all standards should have some component of diversity to it. So do we split it out, or do we just be sure that it is threaded consistently through all of our standards? And granted, that's when the committee came to fruition several years ago. We all know that things change with time. So maybe in the future, there is a call for a separate standard. But that was the standpoint back when the committee started up.
Yeah. And I was going to add too, so yeah, so I think most of us are going to, keep going with this because, right, we're all would like to see a standalone standard. And we had started, doing or starting to gather, to make moves to do a lit review and those sorts of things. But again, the timing and I think the most current reiteration of the standards, or either they're about to come out, right, or did they just come out? So all that was already in the works. And so, right, it's just timing and everything takes time. So we're still going to be working on that for sure.
Yeah, and I'll bank off of that as well. It is important to note that a standalone standard regarding inclusive excellence it really is needed because it goes beyond the standards of, pre-briefing, debriefing, professional integrity, design. And I'll give a quick example. So in one of our simulations, we actually have the students to fill out a form. And on this form, I got to debrief with the student and I realized that the form wasn't completely filled out. And so I was like, well, okay, so what were you thinking when you didn't, like that was set in your objectives to completely fill the form out. So why wasn't that completed when it was an objective, it was reinforced? Well, come to find out the student is dyslexic. She didn't want anybody to know that she was dyslexic. And, coming from a PWI, they want all DEI removed. So we can't even say inclusiveness. So we've gone to belongingness or something like that, belonging. So, so from that student experience, I brought that to the team and I was like, okay, we're going to have to make sure that anytime they're expected to complete a form, that they're given access to that before the simulation as pre-work so they can get familiar with it in their own timing. And so that student is credited to bringing light to that situation. So now, like I said, if they have to fill out a form, they're given access to it prior. And so they can make it as big as print as they need it or whatever to help them understand because she had a learning disability. She just didn't want to publicize it. So it goes past the standards, when you get down to it. So it is needed.
I think that's really powerful because it does change our practice and kind of how we've thought about assigning pre-work and preparation for our learners may not actually be supportive to all of our learners. I think about those who may have processing challenges during the simulation, but maybe have not had the time to work with the content because that's not been our practice. We kind of blind our learners to exactly what's going to happen, and that's not going to work for everybody. And so I think your example is great about offering that opportunity for people to really be involved in a way that is meaningful, helpful to them, and allows them to meet the objectives that we have set out instead of expecting everyone to fit into this is our practice within this space. So I think that really does talk about the excellence that I think y'all have shared needs to be present in all components of what we're doing for our learners. And I really appreciate that example. So as we're kind of coming to the end of our time together, and I could do this for hours, but I know that everybody has got somewhere to be at some point. I'm really curious about what have been kind of the lessons that you have learned along this journey as you've been involved with this committee and kind of navigated through like the organization and your own simulation practices. Like, what are some of the things that some of the ways you've been impacted by what you've been doing? And it sounds like just amazing work, but how has this changed you?
I'd speak up. I just want to say something about how how we started out and where we are now. it's really amazing because we were started out as an ad hoc committee and then we became a real committee. And we need to shine for that because that's pretty good. And I'm like Sevilla, was a one-man show. And now that I do simulations in other departments, I use the standards. I make sure, everything that we've done here. I've learned a lot from my colleagues. And what's really nice about this committee is resources. So if you're stuck, you have a question, somebody had an issue and reached out to the committee, like, how would I handle this? So that's how it's changed my practice. It's like, you can't go to a book for this.
And I'm Jan Tatum, out in Hawaii, and I've been on the committee since its inception. And not only has it helped me integrate different standards in here that have to do with its inclusion, but I've worked with various committee members. We put a poster together and presented it, and I have loved getting the different perspectives of the committee members to get that broader view on what's happening across the country and not just on my little small island out here. So it's been really meaningful to me.
Yeah. I just wanted to just highlight how diverse our committee is. Just like Janice. Thank you, Janice. I didn't see you, being up here, but so glad you were able to join us. Yeah, like Janice mentioned, so we're like across the country. I don't know if we have anybody outside of the US. I don't think so, Leslie.
We have somebody from Ireland.
Ireland.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Great. And so we're from all across, we have people in academia, people in the hospital settings. We have people from HBCUs. We have people from predominantly white institutions. We have people that are certified, healthcare simulation certified, and those that aren't. So yeah, we're a good mix. And like Janet said, just always have different perspectives and viewpoints to add.
Wonderful. I love that. So kind of as we wrap up, I'd love to just kind of free up some time for questions. Any final thoughts that you have about things you'd really like for us to know about your committee? I have absolutely enjoyed my time here with y'all and learned so much, but is there anything you really kind of are hoping we walk away from our fireside chat with when it comes to your committee and the work that you're doing?
For me, I feel like I've been talking a lot, but apparently I'm a little more passionate than I thought I was. But for me, seriously, just listening to us today, we have done some very meaningful work from the beginning. So that's what I want people to take away. We would love for you all to join us and continue to do meaningful work.
I think the work is important. I think what we have developed together and the things that we have done together, I myself like to think of them that they are changing for people and to understand that Include is an important committee. And I also, for myself, I want to thank INACSL for the backing that they have given this committee. They never asked us to change the name. They've never asked us to do anything. They've asked us to do good work. And this committee has done good work.
I agree, and I would like to leave the ending note, if possible, that with this committee, I've never felt more included, and it's not a committee to me, it's a family. Like
Yep.
half of the committee that they're in my phone, and I know, hey, Danette, hey, I hadn't seen you on the meetings. You okay? What's going on? Denise called me last week and we were FaceTiming. And sometimes you're just like, why didn't you text? Why did you FaceTime? She felt comfortable enough to just FaceTime me. Hey girl, I missed the last meeting. Give me a heads up. What's going on? So we are truly a family. We know Janice is on a different timeline.
Yep.
She's somewhere else. So we all know that about each other. We usually know how many kids. We were there when Ben got married and he was thinking about, proposing. We are a family. So we're not just a committee. We're the Include family.
Oh my goodness. Talk about living the values, the mission, and really kind of straightening each other's crowns. I love that. What a great note to end on. I have to say, I could not thank you all enough for taking some time out to share a little bit about the amazing work that you are doing. I'd like to open up the floor to any questions, if there are any questions. I think I've just been mesmerized during our time together, and I know I'm probably speaking for a number of folks too. Any questions for our committee? My lights have gone out because it says I have not moved enough here in my office. So excuse me as I wave my arms around.
Can I put a shout out? We could sure use some more international members, please.
Great,
We'll try to work
absolutely.
out the time frame, okay?
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. Looks like I don't see any questions in the chat. So I do want to once again thank our amazing Include committee for being so willing to come and share a little bit, just a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of work you're doing. So I appreciate you sharing the work that you've done, the journey that you've been on, how you've been shaping not just simulation, but education and really the care we provide our patients and just overall outcomes. I want to thank everybody for joining us here today. I really appreciate it. It has been wonderful to see you all around the fireside again. And of course, I'd be remiss if I did not thank Ariel, who has been behind the scenes making sure that we've got all of our information. We could not do this without her coordinating all of this together. And again, I look forward to seeing you all in 2 months. This is something we do every other month. If you have questions or if there's anything you have in terms of lingering curiosities about the Include committee, the work they do, or how to be involved, once again, there's a call for service or volunteer and membership upcoming, but can we reach out to you through the INACSL information? Can we reach out, Ariel? If you could pop that email into the chat again, another way just to contact you if we've got questions or how we can help to kind of support the amazing work that's being done. Tiffany, you popped something into the chat.
Yes, so I meant to talk about it earlier, but that is a random name generator. If you don't know how to name different patients, you can put that you want it to be ambiguous. You can pick the culture, you can pick whatever, or you can just say, pick me a random patient, and you can put whatever you want, but it will give you some very gender neutral names. We work with a lot of Chris's, Kelly's, and Leslie's for our mannequin simulations.
I love that. Thank you. What a great resource.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you in May. Thank you, Include committee. We really appreciate you and all the hard work you've done. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
having me.